Hi guys, welcome to episode 2 of the coffee course. I'm going to be doing V60 with you today, and we're using Calendar's AB. It's the Tanzanian Magwali. We're going to start off, obviously, with our V60, our coffee ground to medium coarse, and our kettle, which has been preheated and then filled with as hot a water as we can, so around 99 degrees Celsius. I also have my timer here as well. So first off, I'm going to wet my paper, make sure all that papery taste is out of it. We don't want that sitting in the coffee, and also I want to preheat my vessel, whether it be a Kalita jug or your mug at home. The recipe I'm using today is for 2 cups of coffee, as opposed to Jeff's AeroPress recipe, which is perfect for kind of 1 cup of coffee. This is really good for people who like 2 cups of coffee in the morning, or if you're in a relationship and you want to make one for your partner, it's really good. So at the moment I've wet my paper and I've preheated my jug. I'm going to dispose of this wastewater. Put my funnel back on. Here I've ground up, as I said, medium ground coffee. It's 30 grams of coffee. In terms of grind size, what we mean by medium is something as close as possible as this. It's kind of a little bit more coarse than sand for a V60. And my water I'm going to use is 500 mils of water. Okay, so I'm going to pour my coffee into my filter. Secondly, I'm going to flatten the bed, and I'm also going to make a little hole in the center, and basically this helps with the bloom process. So I don't create a big dome once I create that first pour. It creates an even bed once I pour my first pour over. So first off, I'm going to make sure that this is filled up to the top, which I'm just going to double check. So yeah, I'm going to start tare once again. So it's obviously set at 30, so I want to tare that. Okay, I'm going to start my timer to bloom my coffee, and I'm going to pour in the center in small concentric circles. I aim to bloom about twice the amount of coffee in the vessel, so I'm looking for about 60 milliliters of water for the first bloom. Okay, as you can see, it's starting to bubble here. A lot of the carbon dioxide which was left in the roasting process is escaping at the moment. I also want to make sure it's all wet, and I do this by swirling the coffee to make sure all that coffee is getting soaked in the water. This is one of the most important parts of the brew process, making sure all the coffee is being extracted at the same time. So after about 40 to 45 seconds, I begin my main pour, which is my second pour. Once again, nice, slowly, even, concise centric circles. I want to get about 60% of the water in this time, 60-70% of the water. It's not a huge thing if you're pouring on the paper at the side. The main thing is just to get all the coffee wet. So at the moment I'm on 190 grams or milliliters altogether. Always kind of keeping an eye on my timer as well. So at the moment I'm on about 320 milliliters. I'm going to let that sit for a second. I'm going to fill up my kettle again with hot water. At this point I really want to make sure that none of the coarser coffee is sticking to the side of the filter paper. So I'm going to give it a good swirl on the sides. This makes sure that the bed that the coffee is sitting on is really even and flat, and that the water is going down level all the way through. So I'm at about 2 minutes, 10-12 seconds at the moment, and I'm on about 320 grams, and I want to finish my pour now up to 500 grams. So once again, nice and even, small concentric circles. Yeah, so we're hitting about 3 minutes 50 now. I've reached my 500 milliliters, and as you can see, all the water is coming evenly through. I've got my flat bed at the bottom, and not much of the residue is left on the sides. There's always going to be a little bit of residue left on the sides. And I'm hitting my 4 minutes now. All my bedding is flat and even. I can remove this from my coffee. I'm going to give it a little swirl to make sure all the solids are evenly distributed and dissolved in the coffee. And that's my RAO V60 coffee. Enjoy. Yeah, so there we had, I was just running you through the V60 and the do's and don'ts. Jeff, yeah, what do you think? Any opinions on it?
Big fan of the V60. It's the one I've settled on after a while. I used to do AirPress, as we saw in the last episode, but once I started getting into V60 and Chemex, I just found the clean taste profile of it is just really good. I actually love to make that coffee and just let it cool down and then drink it over a long period of time. So I probably would be making the 2 cups for myself, as you'd mentioned.
In terms of at home then, what do you think is more accessible for home users? Do you think V60 or AirPress?
I think the V60 is more accessible, but what's funny about it is it's harder to get it right. You know, as we mentioned in the previous episode, you have a bit more latitude with the AirPress. You can make one, it's palatable, it's fine. The V60, little tweaks, little changes, water quality, grind size, all these things can add up to a way better cup of coffee. Yeah. And once you get into those good habits and learn how to make it properly, you're onto a winner for a quality cup of coffee.
Yeah. So that's all. That's everything for episode 2, guys. I'm Tom Hayes from Pangea Coffee Culture, and this
is Jeff from Tree Bark Store, and we're going to be back very soon with another episode all about
French press. We're going to be looking at French press, the do's and the don'ts. If it's good, if it's worthwhile making at home. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see you next week, guys. Cheers for everything.
Thanks, guys.